Sanji Chudong Soji Chunamda Chanchu Kurdu Nane Jabu Ndaje Sonje Beson Dola Benji Sanji Ndubara Shu Sanji Chudong Soji Chunamda Chanchu Kurdu Nane Jabu Ndaje Sonje Beson Dola Benji Sanji Ndubara Shu Sanji Chudong Soji Chunamda Chanchu Kurdu Nane Okay. Hello, Simon.
Hi.
Okay. In English?
Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the virtuous merit that I create by practicing giving and other perfections, I attain Buddhahood for all sentient beings.
Now I think we are on the verse number, number 45. Is that right? Oh, yeah. Oh, so. Not bad. Let's sambas. Kazangelia. Dude, I need to be careful because sometimes it get freeze or froze. How do you say froze? And
Froze.
Yeah. So you can hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. I checked with Taya and those and the others. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 계산해랑저 렌지 직도가베 렌데를 삼 아니 개화체벌 때네 아니 개변 첨부주의야 봐. 하와도 개화체벌 될 때네 추 지주여바 좀 마세 아니 추 제베 튕긴 베나지기 코르상보 라마상보 데니스 네상보 류상보 된제기 아니 지기 편연도 좀 당랑주 지기 최 토네 시내레 직딩기 토네 시내레 캐다 종이 냠도 주고도 봐 캡상당 종이 냠도 주고도 다 제장의 캡상된지 주여베이나 양 랑주 셈디 로 마rungi chola ya dochocho jiore o diang rona yang nimi kari yobe diang samlo ma ko shin che di pen di chibuji samlo ko ani pen di samba na shin di kan lo ju de tu na da ya bore de diang de ma tu be che yang ko so re sem lenyong gi shawang sa ya tina shin chi chi di wang do dochocho indu di wang lo manjo ye che do yang 되게 님이 삼야데 시부지 개정부라도 어다니 님이 숨고 있어래 단다 시부 싱하거든 알아
And so here in verse 45, which we're picking up from last time, which it talks about the kind of contemplation of the of committing singularly negative karma, and so we were discussing this before, and what we're to engage in any activity within our actually within our lives, whether it's in the worldly sense or in the kind of religious or dharmic context, then we always proceed in a way where we kind of weigh up the advantages or positive sides of something, or the disadvantages, or the faults or negative aspects of things in which we so we weigh those things up, whether it's in a worldly context or in a context of Dharma, and on the basis of that we proceed. So in the kind of Dharmic religious, Buddhist religious context, then they're seeing the benefits of something allows us to kind of engage fully in the practice. But not only that, what the performing of these positive actions also helps, also having sort of people around us, supportive people around us, an excellent Lama, an excellent sort of people around us, an excellent kind of place and environment, and also even just physically with our bodies to be in good condition is something which is very beneficial for us. But also, and we can sort of, if we can, then we can start to seeing the advantages of those things in terms of committing engaging in positive actions, and then seeing the advantages of those, that drives us forward. But also, and what happens with that, seeing advantages, it helps us to push ourselves forward. The mind engages without kind of getting stuck or without complication. But also we have to be a little bit careful, and we can sort of drive ourselves forward a little bit without, in that way, without looking at the faults. But it's better, but it's probably very difficult for us. That's probably a kind of over-optimistic attitude, where it's a little bit difficult for us to keep going if we don't also admit to ourselves that the mind itself is under the sway of karma and mental afflictions, and then of course from that the negative actions through which all the faults proceed. So we also have to take that context into account. So seeing the advantages and seeing the disadvantages is the way that we would proceed in engaging with the Dharma. 태야의 직다고와 간선한 태야의 태야의 뭐 잘.
단다.
lava
Most of you are frost.
Oh.
Your one is okay?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of discrimination? Okay. Tia finished?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Tadichi. Okay. So here, it reminds me of one great master. He said, from our level, on our level, we need to look at the both sides, what is advantages and disadvantages. But for beginners like us, that what he said, me, seeing the benefit with having this kind of pride, then more focused on the disadvantages. Oh, if I do this, then this will not good do something good to me, and I will fail on this, and this cause and condition will drag me to this kind of situation. So focusing more on that level as a beginner, it is much more effective practice. So as this great master said, for myself, time to time, when we hear and listen to the advantages or the benefits of the great qualities, we feel like wish I have this one so that that my prayers and the good wishes to the sentient beings that will be that will have some kind of answer. But then automatically after a few minutes and after an hour, then automatically we are the ordinary, become so ordinary, back to ordinary life. So that means our mind will be diluted and with the sway of the negative emotions. So there our focus, we cannot focus on the advantage of or benefits. Now we have to see the downsides. So that's really actually very true. So once we become stable, then it is focused more on benefits and then staying on having this stabilized practice, then only seeing focusing 90% towards the good qualities, then it is good. But for us, we need to check how our mind is going in the direction. So then we need to prepare more for that. So now this is the part, the verse 45. Let's look into it. Shinji. So this needs some translations. Tia is, I cannot see her.
Yeah, she's doing simultaneous from English into Tibetan, English into Italian.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's Raphael,
Yeah.
Okay. So he's ready. And Tia. Let's wait.
She's ready.
She's ready?
Everybody's ready.
Okay. Okay. My video, I don't know what is happening with this. Let's see. I need to update that one. I'm not sure. Okay. 다 되네. 신지 기비包括嘛对 续比 신도 냥 타징 잡도 차비 매이 续比 상슌 류了 路就了 바베 리디 동통 기는 下이 동부 加了 타징 신도 바베 짜지 서시를 통와 민기 망비 민기 망비 주루스. Okay. This will be very unpleasant to hear, so let's hear about that.
However, as a result of non-virtue, my skin will be ripped off by the henchmen of Yama. In this feeble state, liquid copper melted by tremendous heat will be poured into my body. Pierced by flaming swords and daggers, my flesh will be cut into 100 pieces, and I shall tumble upon the fiercely blazing iron ground.
Well, people who like to watch horror movie. So now this is all horror, full horror movie. Okay. That dinang okay. That dinang ro de ya nak be len de samba se ju. Dinang ga xiang bu zhe. Xie zang nak ba se ju dinang. Nak ba se du zan be 인지 민지 냐바르도 든지지 뭐에 니줄이 요레스라고 말했어. 나 봐서도 잠겼다. 얘가 든데 독자 괜찮 제대베이나 주부르지 민베이나 주부 신앙서 시부드네 민시 그랬었지. 주 민게와 인도 잠베 주부드거지 민게를 세서면도 배 주부 빠도 매바 지고 고지게 드라멘절에 기시 그랬었지. 배나 단당한 저기 다 녀와서 얘기다 봐. 말한 저기 무슨 이제 통수지 그도 카고를 돼 답변은 알아줘 변의 미나로 직겨와를 쉬어 주네 내가 하고 싶은데도 자다 싶은데 다른 답변은 막 잡대로 봐 나를 찾아বেন 근데 저기 또 보고 깨는 다와 그 로하시지 공부 잡투로만 둘러도 아니 흘려지는 지금 라브라를 조심해봐 대규매봐 답에 그도 시원 섬섬지 도시지 디디 용 거야디 다 지단에다 아주 베지기 숑다 아니 계갑다 아니 미 첩시 쪽이 지게 선보 당당 추벌 때니 중벌레스 랍초그레데 이나양 수수수수기 나르기 아니 에 지게 레기 사셔도 딜레이 직 삼로치 당베나 야 수수 게리 수수기 나르기 레든지 지기 대라 때니 두부든지 중요한 시고 그러고 정말로 그 제브레스 지지 두두서라고 말하고 세상 드리지긴도 네 페나 미 때리네리 되니 이제 페나 tundu 때날 샤샤베는 아주 다른 것은 야마다 아주 tunген 공부를 했다 다른 것은 수수수수 그 라바나로리아 정말 다 조조로죠 아니 지기 탑에 탑시 강타지문에 아니 지기 소소소 잡야겠다 지기 소텔레 내진년들에 타래 탑시 tundu 속에 잠도 제고도 아니 라바도 깨차버 som식이 계획의 동에 아니 지기 나외 동에 사회 동에 답에 드럼도 좁혀진 건 저기 답에 블루율인데 버지 아니 댄샹바간에 통주도와 또 늦어 상마랑 아주 섬에 같이 담배나 이 나를 유매버 되는 중앙 말에 긴 미팅비 된 되는 중앙 말에 유튜버 드부통바 겐tum바 어때들 때는 중고도 아니 유카레 왕 중벌 수도 유된들 angар 레든데 사월 때는 중벌에 레디 컨데질 때는 수도 아니 녀모된들 때는 중벌에서 아주 남주네 다 로종기 남주 아주 가사 밥에 된바 시 숭배 나로네 아니 동해된 바도 군준되면 남샤된 아주 도스 장고르 근데 저동원에도 삼로지 코한데 삼레 아주 닝지로 지원도 좀비 심진 냠다가 꺄매본 괴매고 시통한도 좀비 그 닝지 진짜 아카 세야디 닝지문에랑 좀 단 닝지문에데 삼록 당한도 좀비 냠다가 꺄매본 괴매고 딜려야 된지 내가 지원도 좀 최선 겨울을 미치 충분하시 된지기 용고야 돼 주카를 되는 중샤 쓰도 닝지 다도 참여 말이 닝지 친이 차상 만족 닝지 용손 조야 돼 가도 되고 쓰도 닝지 딜 된 렌시라고 된지디 에 셈마 투벌 되는 중샤 쓰시 신기 겐 잠시 말에 년년세 겐 말에 년년도 년년 가르쳐도 레당 영원히도 쓰시 또 시련되는 레당 용모 원기도 수지제 개발질련 차별쇼라 할리 개발내네 밀리 개발내네 권내가 좀 시에마도 지금 그 동네나로 루중이 약지에 새 삼로도 코로나도 아니 제토부지간에 마도 스타운도 좀 참으로 그 차년바 손로버지도 통연시 닝지디 닝지 체매 같이 기도와 어디디 요즘에 탄다 딘제디 니외 동네로 서거든 저디 배충중치래 다딩아랑 저 남샤 경도 동네다 간년 상한테 나로 주고 이러봐 디징년 쪽에
Sorry. Here
Oh,
we
yeah.
have yeah. Here we have to be sort of careful that this is just a particular this is a verse which is connected in the outline to the singularly committing the contemplation on the results and the consequences of singularly committing negative or literally black karmic actions, as it says in the text. But we should not just think of this as just as we have to think of it in a wider context than just what is expressed here. This is obviously not just also that the sense in which negative actions arise in negative results, but not just that there's sort of one not just one negative result. We have to sort of broaden it out more and think of it as many different kinds of unwanted negative consequences arising from engaging in negative actions. And so this is an expression of very serious negative karmic consequences arising in the hell realms, in a sort of forms of hell. But of course, it's very hard for us to manifestly see these things. And so we have to also kind of broaden it out and think about that even if we take the context of human life, then, and human rebirth, then we can see human beings, we can manifestly see human beings with very bad situations, very bad environments and situations, and and for instance, countries that we can see this where countries which are at war, that children grow up and they may live only a few years, they may have no schooling at all. So the tremendous suffering of all of the people living in countries which are at war. But then, for instance, young children being born may only live a few years. They may have no schooling of any kind at all, and be constantly wondering when they may meet their end. And of course, we can say on a sort of practical or sort of manifest level, well, the causes of this come from, for instance, governments or government policies, or interaction, engagement between countries, as a kind of manifest sense of how that those sufferings arise. But for us, we're looking for a kind of deeper reason as to why those sufferings arise. So we would say that in the past, these people have accumulated negative karmic consequences and committed negative karmic actions, and therefore are receiving the consequences of those. And so they receive these unwanted, very harsh negative experiences caused by their previous actions. And we can sort of also, that's in terms of a human context. If we take it in terms of the animal realm, or the context of animals, again, something we can, of course, human beings have more. So human beings are now, in the past, we would never have had so much ability to see all of the ways in which the animal realm sort of happens. But now we're much more able to see much widely what happens in the animal realms. And, we can see how they have, for instance, just for the basic process of protecting their own lives, animals have to do so many things, and have to do, engage in all kinds of actions, and just to protect their own lives. And then you can see also the sufferings, that's to protect their lives, but you see the sufferings of go along with being born in this particular kind of states, the aging and sickness process that occurs to them. So you can see this very manifestly now, especially these days. National Geographic managing and these things, we would say that these things do not arise causelessly. They don't come from conditions which are not in accord. The results do not come from conditions which are not in accord with the result. They come from causes and conditions which are in accord with the result. And these results, these experiences or results, come from the karmic cause and effect, and those particularly the consequences, particularly the negative consequences, arise from our mental afflictions. And this is very clearly stated by the Buddha in when he first stated the Four Noble Truths, where we talk about the truth of suffering and then the truth of the origin of suffering. And we've studied this already in the connection between those two truths. So then also kind of what, but just having a sense of sort of akka, or seeing some terrible situations, let's say, manifest terrible situations, and just thinking how awful these things are, is, you know, not a real, not very strong compassion. We have to come up with an answer, you know, we have to sort of come up with an answer to compassion. For compassion to be complete, we need to come up with an answer that doesn't to sort of understand how that the sufferings of all these ourselves and all the sentient beings arise is not just from some kind of secondary subsidiary causes, but actually looking deeply into what is the main substantial cause which underlies the whole process. And there we find what we find is our minds being under the sway of karma and mental afflictions. So even, you know, beings are born into all kinds of different realms, whether it be in the God realms, the humans, the hell realms, the animals. But in a sense, these are also, we can also say these are kind of temporary states, that they're not inhabited forever. So there's a constant kind of state of suffering of all different kinds. And so in that sense, if you take a very broad looking down on the situation, all the sentient beings are similar in the sense that they're going through this process of suffering underpinned by karma and mental afflictions. So when we see that as all the sentient beings in that kind of condition in some way, then this is how we talk about immeasurable compassion. So here is a very specific mention of the suffering of the hell realms, but we must broaden our understanding much further to bring in this whole sense of a kind of immeasurable compassion.
Really? Okay. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. You have to be like the director. Okay. Yeah. 자, 지난번에야 단다 투지추지 타백이 자와드나로야 아니 지게 근데 예외 꼴바 송도 담배 대강이야 랑기 레년베 왕기 나외 세죠. 시티. 아. 프로차 말봐. 고정해.
Disqua.
단다 디 티약이 죽을 딱 티라한테 배제지고 봐. 쉽게 니 슈타 말이 여래.
파리소게도 랑기 레 냠벨기 왕기
냠베 왕기 낭웨스
낭와 사나스나
낭와스 낭웨스
야
아니 낭웨스죠 레 랑기 레 냠베 왕기 낭웨스죠 다디 싶으시죠 와 랑기 레 냠베 왕기 낭초버세 낭초버세 아도체게 대양 가서 그래 신입의 이메디 계적 니버 어젠스나 랭님베 왕기 낭야주요 그랬어
계진니버 카르데 계진니버 카르데
제장 계진니버 시도 잠베 다 뭐라도 신의 계적 셰주요 봐세드레 다게 초래 당부 인지민지 냐와스니데 피게 도와지 도지된 거고 다가랑 막 조선은 디월이 아니 나웨 왕기스 애들아 나웨 신지 권야세 줘서 두분 주고 잡았더나 어디야고 sambrona shai ke chambure.
And so it's very important to, in Thubten Chögyal Drapa's commentary to this verse, he sort of uses this he very carefully uses this word when speaking about the hell realms, where he says that these things, such as the Lord of Death or the demons of the hell realms, the henchmen of Yama, as it says in the root text, these appear they are an appearance created by our own negative karmic actions. So it's something which is sort of suitable or possible to appear that is, so he uses that very carefully. And what I want to sort of draw from that is that we don't have to think of the hell realms as a kind of strong physical locality located thousands or hundreds of whatever the yoganas underneath Bodh Gaya, but it's a karmic appearance caused by our negative actions. So that is something very sort of a little bit subtle way of thinking about it as appearance, not just as a kind of super solid reality.
Good. Okay. Dirisha. Ta tenenga zudu shitinima di tsabchi. Shibju shenga tsabchi. Ta shibju shirubadi. Ta 46. Tewe gela me cha shin sa kubani do gombarcha. Doji genzen chogayi zamnenga di gombarcha. Asech. Ta di yanenga chambudu. 46, please.
Therefore, I should aspire for virtue, and with great respect acquaint myself with it. Having undertaken the wholesome in the manner of Vajrapaja, I should then proceed to acquaint myself with self-confidence.
Da dida shibi shiruba dina debi yina. Tuen duna da tunda roksu duna sechidwa. Tuen duni shebi yinas. Da raji. Dine tuni chugi chabek tada tedari giwe penyon da digwe nimi shindu chebi gyunzen tewe na. Lende tsui shindu samne chinchi mingi wa bongwa da. Gewe chokona sobala meba de dunba jebar chashin. Samba tabi kubani du lendele yichi tenpa tenpo kumbar chao sechi. Da yi lendele yichi tenpo jinyeba chego re sechi. Da dinde songsha. Da lendele yichi tenpo nye sedu zambe nga zo karichego re. Yichi tenpo nye sedu zambe ani dawa re ishe nyawa yore, nyawa sinye dungane chane yore sechi. Ani semna rol mani changwa na shin dedene chos ke yomare. Da kechi shu di ngaran pendo che shu dini jige dunghe sinye ki da zawa dawa dunghe dire. Dunghe kanti jige ne nga zo jige tendo yomare. Chezang dunghe tondo gilo tsangwale yore. Chezang dunghe chungchung jine chenpo yine. Chele cheyata tanda jige dinani ma sungde bishijin. Sosobe nawa tulba chuboy gengi ta dhamira shani yongya jingamra tsabuta zo tsangwalo ma gaya ge tundala ta kariche gore sedu zambe ani yakshoy de ta ngaranzo tande sem mochupa sem stable sort of yoye de ka tela ya ani dungi sinye de yongsa de kawani yungudu sedu zambe kunjung ni yungudu seya de yije ni tochi kunjung sedu zambe ledan yongone tiri dungi sinye yongsa de ledan yongmo nilu yungudu se samlo de chik ya gyuda gen se de ya samlo kordo se de korsu de ko zamli mayen ba an tangdong ledan yongmo ni de yang yongsa de kwa yungudu se de zambe an su lo matuba de yungudu 다도 점버디게 용고도 랑라 친도 제버 제 셴 예워터버디게 용고도 세 섬로들 네바지 네체 양 네바네베 토네 가네 마직다지 야 랑제버 쯤바다 다도 쯤바다 sem motiva tedagi karimudu si mayo ya majitana ya tela tene leda nyomoni mas yokudo leda nyomoni tela tene an dungen da geber chigdu sedu zambe an somebody na lo like rangxing le junde li je ni tabshi yashu dire chenga nyewa yore layu yore tagshin lo dogo yin nyewa singe de pusu togore se samo khor tang debe na an azu di dire jire demo da de son lo jire ma do demo kaso da cha yu shu de la ya demo de munere tingum do ba o de demo da de ko yam chen chen zhe ma do ji keme do ba o da yi ji demo ni ya la le jun de ji ge ju den ji bu ni zhe wa su gu go re ju den ji bu zo zhe wa su ya de dong yen de ba dang gun jung de ma zhe wa su ya gun jung de ba dang 아니 로마 투바다 자와 가르기 시기도 드존 자와 수야 됐다 저기 냠냄 진이지 임베가 다디 양양도 선로 다니 되스레
Loma tu was saying there's susugi loma machaya ro so in be.
로마 투바다 로마 투바를 망고 요청 봐 자와 상대로 거
So
아
and so in this verse number 46, it's kind of the first two lines of verse 46 are a kind of summarized version of the subjects, the meaning of the subjects that we've been talking about in the part in before this. In Thubten Chögyal Drapa's commentary, I'll kind of do a rough translation of what Thubten Chögyal Drapa says when he talks about the instruction on giving rise to this aspiration or inclination towards positivity in the Dharma. When he says that through the reason or the understanding of the positive aspects of virtue or the benefits of virtue, the qualities of virtue, and the faults, the extremely heavy faults of negativity, then we have a sort of we contemplate things in a way which is in accord with the law of karmic cause and effect, and then we strive to uproot the negativity, the non-virtuous actions, and we have this sort of, so this gives rise to an inclination or an aspiration to accumulate only the kind of positive class of positive side of activities, and to uproot or remove the non-virtuous actions, and to engage only in virtue. And then this sort of, so we have this very strong sense from within inside it as of wishing to of generating this kind of inclination or aspiration. And then we kind of cultivate sort of in having a kind of respect towards this process, we then cultivate trusting faith in a strong and stable trusting faith in the causal relationship between karmic actions and their results. So that's how Thubten Chögyal Drapa puts it in his commentary. So here he says a sort of strong and stable trusting faith, a kind of something that we've kind of ascertained and then have strong and stable faith in. But this doesn't mean, what does it mean? It doesn't mean to have a strong, stable, trusting faith in, say, oh, the hell realms are real, and then kind of go, okay, that's terrible. I'll sit down and count some money, some or money pom or some do some mantra practice for the benefit. It means this is something, but it's not a great understanding of
사면 직토다 많이 translate ritual na 신시면 비체 많이 translate 다 녀와요 삼로당데
yes, so yeah, so just sort of going, the hell realms exist, the hell realms exist, the hell realms exist, thinking of it like this, not just Rinpoche says that doesn't mean it does. I made a mistake. What he said is, Rinpoche says, doesn't mean, I don't mean that you sort of ascertain that hell realms are real and then you do mantras for that. It means that, like, you recite it like a kind of like a little bit like parrot fashion, like a mantra, where you say the hell realms are real, the hell realms are real, this kind of thing. This is not what we need. What we need is to understand suffering, what the suffering means, and what suffering is, what the extent of suffering is, and also to understand what the root of it is, and so how to and we have a wish to be separated from suffering, but we sort of have to understand what suffering is, and then whether it's extreme suffering or it's a kind of much milder, a smaller form of suffering, the suffering which comes as an appearance, such as particularly like fear. So what we have to do is have a strong and stable mind that we have to think about how to stop that, right? Not just sitting there thinking that the hell realms exist, but we have to find a way to try and stop the process. And so then in order to get some kind of strong, stable, trusting faith, we need to look into it in a much deeper way. Where does all these forms of the appearance of suffering, where do they come from? And that leads us, of course, into the truth of the origin of suffering, from the second of the Four Noble Truths, and then contemplating how the origin of suffering is stated as the karma and mental afflictions, but then we need to keep going deeper into that. So that's the origin of suffering, but where does that come from? So we need to continue to look deeper into that, and where we see that the karma and mental afflictions come from self-grasping, a lack of ability to train and tame our minds, and below that, self-grasping and self-cherishing and self-grasping. These Rinpoche tree don't disorder. Cause doesn't done shins cause ranches in done doesn't dig Konsu kawane chomore Konsu yang later newmon le chomore by somewhere by Dirbe. The later newmon is this doesn't done ranches in a chomoro. De
Tadi di kawane chongsha situ tarloma tubal teni chongsha se samlo di iji yor. 다 이제 레 차비 제소 아니 삼로 니버 가르당 그랬으나 다 인들로 마트버지 여나 아니 양조 양스 마 당보 야두 말뢰 손럽치지 다 딘제기 당신데다 란신신데 여나 아니 로 마트버 디기 겐기 레단 요몬도 조용고도 레단 요몬메 버지 여 차비 슈고라 아니 고 동해디 요래 스치지 레두점베 디 삼로당당 니디 지 원이야도 수연지 직도 강내마 삼로당야디 로중도 로도 손로치 오도 삼로당베
So we have to sort of think this on the loma tuba say digi sem maduareo sem ao da shabdu do sa do no maduarwa. So we have to think of this in two kind of ways, the way in which it occurs and the way in which we sort of can work backwards to prevent it, and the way that it actually arises. So the way that it arises is that from the self-grasping and the self-cherishing, and also, with without being able to tame, with the condition of not being able to tame our mind in this way, then from that come the mental afflictions, and then the karmic laying down of the karma, and then from that the suffering. So the other way is to look backwards from it, looking at where the suffering comes from, that it comes from the karma and mental afflictions, and then underneath that is the conditions of the self-grasping and self-cherishing, and then with this kind of the lack of training of our minds in these things. So you can sort of think of it in the one way in which you're sort of getting rid of them or releasing them, and another way in which they're so there's sort of two ways in which they're arising and how we would prevent them. And so this process is sort of going on, that this causal effect process is going on, whether the beings are born in the God realms or in the hell realms or in pure lands, or wherever they're being born. We we need to, what we need to do is have this sense that in relation to the first of the two noble, the truth of suffering and the truth of the origin of suffering, that what a practitioner needs to have is a very strong sense that of this that their practice draws on this very strong trusting faith in the process of cause and effect, so that it's the relationship between cause and effect. So this is this is the way that a practitioner engages in it, rather than just having this sense of trusting that these states such as the hell realms exist, but having this watching this whole kind of causal process and how we can undo it. That's what Lhasa. Yeah.
Hola, so. Dina Roni, tanda Jawa Nang Yoba Nashin, Lendela Chishindu, some say at Nalola, that Chilishindu, Sidu Zembe, Mobi Nizu the Tumbe, Mobi Nizu dan Tumbeina, Chishindu some said. Tang Mobi Nizu the Tun said, so, Tanchi did Yore Sikudua Slabje, Lama Jig Song, and Jig Sanji Song, Long Latench. 아니 도선조에지 용도 용추지 고 신도 고주그리도서 도선 로고레데 이내 개치슈지 아주 야 신도 고주스 타른부디 레야 삼로치당 타니에베 강조기 아니 세디기 동에 세디기 당진 라소버도주 초진 자와스마토체 안 자와스여데 니아와다 안에 허유신 손으로 뷰얼렌 손으로 던져를 잡대비나 고 아주 라고 창야디 티들 라고 창야디 여바도 마창자 타른 불 라고 창이 손으로지 내 차는 줘요 그래 대인도 전에 개치슈디 당 알아는주 단대 셈 모티브 틀레데니 까니 먹고 지도 세다가랑 가지고 연구도 틀레데는 동해지기 지기 셰모티브지 먹고 용인데 또 참제 samlo tangche ani rangshingi tandang rangzhuge da namgyu chusum da yang da goba tele teni ani ribo tangche da jigi karaso re namsha gyundu ani gyumin goba jigi droba ina tele teni zhu jigi gyugewa dribu dewaji yongya ge tapkoro yomari seti 안을 하바동 란쪽에 한다 랑싱이 다양다 근데 전에 좌추진 메다디 제바인 비치르세 다고용도 잠베 아니 란쪽이 같이 쳐라 다고 봤을 텐데 아니 따발이야 제발 매바지 예고도 봐. 따발이 제발 동안이 뭐지 예고도 봐. 뒤에 한 먹거나 아니 단단한 저기 조주도 요말 봐. 오 늦어도 답에 알아도 딱서 땅만 신지지. 삼로 땅은 되잖배. 아니 알아는 저기 yu gewa de jigi cheya la gewa da tumba gewa de dang tumbi ni kyen chamje de changwa ji gu du ma do di nyam do yan digba dang gewa nyam do je de son do chewe ina dribu de tsawa ni yang da ji ma re se di ji tem bu ni o di du zang be ta di yong ya la ani ko sang ji gu song de den zang shi ma yin ba ani ko ji ge mo do je ba 자바 다양다를 때니 이니 가로지 이진이 도지 용도도 맞지 어때서다 신이지 다토이나 겨울음지 더 관심이 어때지래 그래서 롭종장고도 세대 고조지 농지부 잠시 때문에 많이 봐 르베람네 냐바지니 원도 잠배 아니 신은 수수랑기 미 통만한 신지 둔도 통야기 초가지래 원도 수직이 뒤매 요 말을 쓰려더니 지기 가서래 파닝제지마도 딜 남녀들 인지그마도 폰도사고 자원인 메디지 어떤지 지기 당하란지 중배이나 아니 시니수 스타자워를 지기 단다 빌루주든 선되고 지어서 시니수 데니 된셰베 수도시 아니 시니주 된바니디 신배이나 아니 된바신기 랑도를 주고 당의 신그레스 디 야고주 중배이나 아니 딘시 코와 주도 지신이 체매 참배 depusum 태바된서네 점로 상기 좀 된데를 캡 어마인베 태바게야 최고군주의 로메베 점무여인베 태바게야 기도군주의 아니 캡조는 다조인베 아니 베캡 아니 뭐네 전에다 나무 상기베 또 타고지 차야게 아주 말자라 디보디래도
in terms of the we need to think about it says in the text where it talks about contemplating in accord with the karmic law of cause and effect. So Sushindu in Tibetan means something like the real situation, the way things actually are. So sort of contemplating karmic, the way that karmic law of cause and effect goes, so something like that. So not just having a sense of where one of our teachers or one of our lamas says a certain thing, and we kind of accept it as the way it is. The Buddha saying something, and we sort of accepting exactly as it is said like this. I mean, it's possible to go like this, and of course, in Buddha's in the philosophy, there's a context of very hidden phenomena, which are things that can things which can only really be ascertained through reliance on scriptural quotations of an authentic source. But this is kind of going like a long way around. This is like so it would be better for us to connect this in terms of getting so what we're talking about is getting an inclination towards performing virtue and having a trusting faith in the real situation of the law of karmic cause and effect. And so in this life, it would be much better to take all of the sufferings, thinking about how all of the kinds of unpleasant experiences and sufferings that we occur to us in this life, that we connect this with our own self-grasping. And so instead of just thinking about or either just taking accepting things as they're said by an authority, but or the other way of thinking that, oh, well, the gods and the humans and the pure lands, and there's this kind of karma which will result in this kind of rebirth in a particular place. But again, this is very it's like this is something much further away from us, and what we need to, so it's like if we don't grasp, instead of grasping at reaching out for something which is close by to us. We're reaching far, far away. And so we should instead have this sense of the kind of situation that we're in terms of our own life suffering and the source of that suffering, which is the self at the bottom of it, our own self, our own grasping to a non-existent self. And so we have to get this sense that so digging into it deeper, what we're looking to do is to analyze it more deeply than having just a kind of reasoning which is based on a scriptural, which has as its evidence a scriptural quotation, but instead looking to try and develop our trusting faith through in the law of karma, cause and effect, through the sense that if you perform a negative action, then the ripening or the result of that negative action, there's no chance for it to be a positive result. So we have to get this kind of definitive, ascertained, definitive sense that causes are always concordant with their results. So, for instance, when in debate in philosophy, we use on the debate courtyard the syllogisms, logistics syllogisms. Sound is impermanent because it's a product. This is very sort of common syllogism to prove subtle impermanence. And what you chokchurbe Jacobbe susumde chokchu Jacob marbe Jacob Sutambode. Yeah, so for the first part of the syllogism, you're looking at whether the presence of this what is called chokchu in Tibetan, the presence of the sign in the subject of the syllogism, and also within the syllogism, you have to have this sense that the sign is also not because Chichin Darcy's Karsada Nanzu syllogism Zubina, Chig Zubina, the RS and Otanga Kazana Gewele Tubna, and Karsa Kandazugre.
Jibu Gewad of Chichikyon, example Chichyon.
Yeah.
On the Gewad de Drubala, Ani Gu Tedan Tumbi Gewa Tagarankanga, Degormado, Di Danyam, Ani Gumitumbi, Gumitumbaji, Kyawana, Jibuti, Gibber Chetu Mares, Di Tachova.
Lare. Yes, yeah.
Asetambe Kablaya, Ani Choju Dukingi Kansate, Chu Tangu Dukingi Kansate Lai, Ani Taba Chebe Tongani.
Taba the Chebe Tongo Madi, di Jacob gig up.
Chekir Jerwa, Cheba, Diro Kansore, Tandang Ranjugi, Tabalarba, Cheba Inna, Ani Mitaba Yibi Kaba.
So, di Jacob, Jacob Sujiba.
Tachunibache, Chezanga Dindi, Tapala, Tapala, Cheba member Nibit. Tapala Cheba member Nibik, Samadruban, Shinchi, I don't know, good in Dichi, Negi Cheba Tela, Diba, Lo Mingiva, the Digital Drosona, Jibudi Yanta was Gigmare said, Tash of schools.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's the second of the modes of the syllogism is relating the sign of the syllogism to the predicate, the thing, the quality of the predicate, which is, so for instance in the sound is impermanent because as a product you're drawing the relationship between the product and you're looking at the interaction between the product and impermanence, or the opposite of impermanence, permanence. And so in that sense, what you would do with sound is impermanent because it's a product, is in the sort of pervasion, you're looking that everything which is a product would necessarily be impermanent. And then, but there's also, in proving this, there are kind of three criteria that need to be met. And one of them is that the product is not found in permanence, which is the opposite of the predicate. It's called. So product is not found in any permanent phenomena. So what we do is use this we should be using this kind of process. This is what His Holiness is encouraging us to do when he says that you should not accept things purely out of faith or respect for an authority or a scriptural authority, but you should study logic and study the text in a deeper way, because what we would do is, using that kind of syllogistic structure, we would say, taking as the sign, taking a positive, taking as a virtuous activity, a virtuous thing, that there is no way in which, taking a non-virtuous karmic action, and then drawing the relationship that there's no way that from that non-virtuous action, so that would be kind of like the sign, and then the opposite of the predicate would be a positive, happy experience. And so there would be no way in which there would be no way that from a negative action, a positive experience or a positive result could ripen. So this is how you sort of use that virtue only arises in accord with pleasant and happiness, happy experiences and happy ripening results only arise in accord, in relationship to their positive, in relationship to their causes, which are virtue, and that you can't, these two of having virtue and then receiving, having negativity and then receiving positive results can never be mixed together. And this is using this kind of syllogistic structure, which we, in this, the sound is impermanent because it's a product, is what's called a valid sign, a kind of nature, a naturally valid sign. The natures are the same. But this is what's called a reason by power of the fact, this kind of relationship that we're drawing here between, we're seeing that it's impossible for a positive virtuous a negative action to produce a positive result. And so then you develop this kind of trust in that, and in the end, once you continue to develop that, you'll have, it won't be just a trust in words, it'll be like literally like seeing it directly with your eyes, so that if someone were to contradict you, if somebody were to say to you that it's completely not that way at all, you would never be swayed. You would have seen it, seen the truth of this directly with your eyes, and you would never be swayed by people sort of counteracting your understanding. And what would happen is you would never get disturbed, but you would have a sense of compassion for the other because you've seen through to the truth. And so this is the sort of when His Holiness in the prayer to the 17 Nalanda scholars, the praise to the 17 Nalanda scholars, talks at the end about how first of all seeing the reality in which is in relation to the true truths of the conventional and ultimate truth, and then on the basis of that, understanding the basic real situation through the presentation of the two truths, the conventional and ultimate truth, then we engage in the Four Noble Truths in a concordant way, and then you have real, from that springs real real trusting faith and refuge in the Buddha who taught the teachings, the Dharma, which is the actual the refuge, and the Sangha, which is the kind of supporter, the support in order to engage in these practices. So then you have this, then you have this much more deeper ascertainment based on kind of logic and reason, which is much more sustaining for our refuge and our trusting faith. Sorry, Rinpoche.
Okay. 다때네 단다 수제 도지 견전 초과이 잠능하지 공부를 잘 했다 뒤에 내가 친구 집질에 선부도 그러잖아요. 아란조 nga 나로라야 아니 지게 라잉아지 공야디 야 집지게 하면베 라니 탐면베 나와 장야라 아니 집지 개침부 쓰고요 봐. 다 하바도데 도초가 나로 남규딘데 믹스 등급 말해대 아데 준주가 나로래야 아니 믹스기 아니 chanchu semba zoliya 아니 ngaji chi sogudo wa ngaji sidu zambe ta dire tagarang ngaji sikkurang duwa zamne ngaji go ba cha ta di ngaji se de boba dir ba che jang ngaji sidu zambe ko lo chi karso re so lo tubi lo tuba diga tele tene ani be chi karso re ngaji che wa ma yimba ku gumzenda de be toani rikpodan denbe towane. Ani kor jik shenla penbe nubati rangni lu yobada, ani dindi rangni le penba nashi shenla yan pengu yobati nyeba towane, ani ngaji di che sunguduwa. Shizanga dini wesu gyubi dujanana minbada chowar chedo, se shie sungbe choga yi se, gewe le zamne tarchimbar chebe ngaji usudo, da gotsubati shu gebar che sen, tadi nyingjim shu jare. 고조워딩이 슈티를 채고 세들이 당한주 맞게 많지 그래서나 고조시에 슈마케네 엔티포로들 하디 봐 제상가 도지견생 아지 세디 제국리스 도지견생 아지 세디 단위 고조 차위 단위 슈게오스 도지스도 민규를 되는 봐 근데 인도 좀 뱉다 딘제게 아지디 또 남유가 도초나를 세부게 시라서 말 다들 준주나 뺏세부터 딩아도 답에 계속 좀 시원한 게 맞아 년바 근데 이제 좀 명하란지 디 양의 양도 최바지 비출라 아니 도지 전쟁기 슝네 땜베 도지 전쟁에서 꼭 차비 대sen지로 봐 된저기 드네 송베 아니 아제도 고버 차세 아제도 간데레스도 좀베 고츠부디 슈게버 시긴 세드리시 다디 간데스레스도 아니 십주 시든 받는 마스고 봐
And so here in this verse, the second two lines of verse 46, where it says that having undertaken the wholesome or the virtuous in the manner of Vajradvara, I should then proceed to acquaint myself with self-confidence, or a kind of pride or self-confidence. In the tantric context, there's a great emphasis placed on the importance of deity yoga, where what we do is remove the sense of ordinary appearances of both ourselves and the environment through the practice of deity yoga. And so this kind of practice of visualizing oneself as the deity is greatly valued. But in sutra, there's not really that sense of those kind of practices. But here, Shantideva, in his way of the Bodhisattva, actually gives us a little bit of a kind of example of that that style of practice where the bodhisattvas take this great pride or kind of strength and confidence in sort of pride or sort of strong self-confidence. Now but this pride or self-confidence is not a kind of pride which is backed up with kind of arrogance or mistaken kind of a pride or self-confidence, but it's backed up with reasoning, with the wish to benefit others. So and it's backed up with the wish to benefit others, but it's also backed up with reasons. There are sort of it's not a kind of mistaken arrogance. And what is the pride or the confidence that we're talking about in it? And it's stated here in the last line, where it says in Tibetan Samne Nagya Gombochas, which means actually in the English where it says I should then proceed to acquaint myself with self-confidence, it probably just misses a little bit. Once having engaged in this process of developing ourselves, then what tends to happen to us is that we start something off but then get stuck and can't continue on with it. But here when we say Dorji Gyaltsen, the Vajra Dvav, the Dorje is like immovable, like a the Adam, they use this word adamantine, the diamond, the Dorje, which is immovable. And so once we start engaging in this path, and engaging in the virtuous path, then we don't get stuck and kind of give up. And so this is in the commentary, it says about how once we start to engage in virtuous karmic activity, then we have this pride or self-confidence which says that I will carry on right to the end. There's a kind of strength to carry on right to the end. Now this and so there's this sense of a kind of a little bit kind of pride, which is not spoken of. It's not exactly the same thing as is talked about in the tantric teachings, but here Shantideva is giving us a kind of slight aspect of that. He's giving us a gift of the slight aspect of that, of taking the confidence from not just this particular sutra, the 6th chapter of the dedication chapter of the Avatamaka Sutra, I think it is, but all of the great texts and and taking that confidence, starting to engage in virtuous karmic activities, and then having the confidence or pride to follow it through to the end. That's what he's talking about here.
Okay, did Tia finish? Tia interfere?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Felix, you have a question?
Yes. Hello, Rinpoche. Thank you very much for your teachings. I have a question about the karma. What would be a very good, strong argument to prove to myself that the law of cause and effect really exists in the way it is described.
Okay. 7.
or the Susugi touch the Gulati Dawa Sopadansugi touch the social run the cubi Jimsinchi contest Google is Jimsinchi Nansu the Susula run Yichige Kasade related the Ichigi gave the Jimsinchi run the cubi Jimson run and that Dorshide.
Okay.
Chicks Rimshi the color chinos.
That's just a lay juntel, Ichi Nedan de Jezanga Zu Aranzugi Dungenji Kayonche, Dunge de Mindiobater, Mindiobatri. Mindubi Dungen de Chule on the Zambe, Tingal Candes Chiche, Chumbaris, Ladu Zambe, and Digi Judil Samatan do Judelia, and Mingewaju, Mingewam, and a chig, let a pneumonic some jargon the Samerstan. Let a pneumonic ledge yovche. Tell it in the led Mibacheti, pneumonki, a Mibach Chever Jusha. Ta lady any caricatic sao to say Samatan to Zambene, Amaju Mingewa Judu do Samatan till Denny, Yondanchi. Ta Mingewa Judy any condition do say to somebody yard touch to Sabore. The Yundizambeta, Loma Tubajil, then Chumbere. Ta Loma Tubati, Dado Zambetang Zing till Denrishas. Ta Dado Zambetang Zing, Tigi on Denny, and it to me jig number Menda Chava Teletini. Sudam Mutumbi Namdo, Dramida Charedi, Zawa Karachi Sudu, Dado Zimbe Dangzin Yoba Teletini. Dado Zimbe Dangzin Yoba Teletini, and a Tsumi Yijig, Namdo Yeg, Jutsa, De Teletini, any Dado Zimbi, Shutella, and a Dado Druber Tao Yondu, any Shine Tat Mat Chigi Tong Goya de Matonje, Tom Goya Mamboji Tonje, now, and Nawa Masun, Tulche. Da Medachigene, Deva Mayimba, Devala Tahimaya, Dumiwala, Dumiwatella, Devada Zindoya. Any Mizanwala Town Zindoya, Udu, Samlot Leonde, any Ajuli, Leltin, Yomondos, Yongu over the Seva Hakoyanshi. Or the Ta Aranjugi, Debashil do Jani on Danchik some down Choje, and Tiang, Taco Carborwa. That do say Mayimba. Uncle Ribe Taji, Tangian, Susum Horajapante. Chesanga, Majubi, di Chola, di Yong Chogre, di Digina, di Yong Ogrimato, did and do them duty the motum, do Mitumbachilla, to be Djibouti Yong Sigmare, such. Do Mitumbaji on the Zambi, Candian, Mitumba, Dini Deni, Djibuya Midevachi Yongri, such. That the touch of you, so survey. Laptop you want to do something. Any oh, yeah, they were the Deva do de Yonyadi, Dunya Chungsha, Karjansana, De Lodelia, Trubachilation, Trubatele, any Numontation, Numontele, any Djibouti Chumri, says some local.
So the way we have to sort of so what we're trying to do is get a kind of strong ascertainment of where our unwanted suffering comes from. And so we should take a real example of unwanted suffering in our lives and look at and try to look into that and to see how where does it come from? Looking into where does it come from? Of course, we would say that the cause of this is non-virtue, and then where does the non-virtue arise from? It arises from negative. It arises from negative karma, which is then created by the mental afflictions. And so, but we're sort of looking into what we're trying to do is look into the process. So taking a real manifest unwanted suffering in our lives and looking about and trying to draw the trying to see whether there is a connection and to draw a connection between these things, between these, the karma, mental afflictions. And then, of course, the mental afflictions arising from our untrained mind. So, and then underneath that is a misunderstanding of a conceptual misunderstanding of the way that things actually exist. And underlying that is self-grasping, which is self-grasping. The self-grasping actually acts as a cause for what's called Summin Nishiginando, and a kind of mental and incord and mental engagement, which is out of step with the way things actually are, and then from there the mental afflictions, then from there the karma, and then from there the unwanted suffering. So that's of course that's how it's presented. So we have to sort of that all of those these unwanted kind of karmic appearances arise out of that process. So we sort of looking at the way in which at the bottom of it, the way in which the the appearance of the way that whether the way that we understand the self is correct or not. And we have many of we're under the sway of many of these misapprehensions about the way things are, taking things which are actually suffering to be happiness, taking things which are actually impure to be pure, and then from that, then we're under the sway of mental afflictions and karma. And so, or perhaps another way to, what the Four Noble Truths is doing is sort of looking at it. You can look at it both ways into that's the way in which the process arises, but then you can also reverse that and look at it the way in which you, through the Four Noble Truths, the way in which you reverse the causal process, so that you cease the karma and mental afflictions, etc., and the whole chain collapses. And so, again, using this the syllogistic logic, in syllogistic logic, they have the three modes of a syllogism and the way that those interact to help us to ascertain a truth about something. And so, looking at how unconcordant results do not arise from non-concordant causes or conditions, and looking at our own situation, so what they're saying is that the results always arise from conditions and causes which are in accord with the results. So you don't get happiness and pleasure from negativity, and also, and we look at our own situation. We wish for happiness. All of us wish for happiness of whatever kind, but what comes to us is still suffering. And so there must be a mistake or a misconception within this whole process. And that's how we look at, and from the mistaken understanding, then come the mental afflictions, and then comes the karmic results of suffering. So sort of looking into this process, but taking manifest sufferings in our lives and looking at where they come from.
Okay.
Okay. So very good question. Thank you. And as we talked, it is a very important and a necessary, because our mind is so diluted we have to always, I say this like my mind is diluted, but deep inside somehow we have like, my mind is so pure and so clean. But and then every day there will be some obstacles without not knowing somehow from the causes and conditions, some conditions from outside, it appears like you haven't done anything wrong, but there comes a situation that you don't need to think much about your own kind of problem. But some problems are like, oh, wish I hadn't done that, but somehow I thought this is it right, but it turns out to be something kind of wrong. Then you blame so much, and then you become so kind of like fear that maybe I will do something wrong, and so much kind of too much hope, too much kind of you lose your kind of confidence somehow. So then there you have to ask a question to yourself that all the situation, how it is made by you, or somehow you are looking at it, there's so much thing that you have done it with so much kind of very high expectation. That very high expectation, that somehow it is not going as the reality. So then you will think like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, I haven't done that, or so much thing that you lose your kind of confidence because of you actually don't know, don't realize what the true or the reality is. So understood the reality, and then plan everything, and then even it goes as a plan, you will smile, and you will not like become like overconfidence. And then if it doesn't work as a plan, then you have an answer, and then you are staying always in the middle. So this kind of practice, we don't need to become higher realized. We don't need to go on like the go on the path of seeing, or path of accumulation, or path of preparation. We don't need on this kind of stage. So this kind of confidence we can build in day-to-day life if we try to see the use of the shunyata or this selflessness to purify your own delusion day-to-day life, like antivirus. So take out the virus. It's very good. Then slowly your belief, your confidence, faith grows. Then you will feel like, wish I can have a better understanding and more stable understanding. Then you will look into shamatha. Then you go on to like theata kadekate parakate parasamgate. Then it is very healthy. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for your patience and your interest. Thank you. But let's do the dedication.
Sure. Thoroughly investigated in accord with all that I've heard day and night through the four reasonings, mind born of reflection on these topics of contemplation, may this discernment sever all doubts. In a land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful tenor as it tends in Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri who knows reality, and just like Samantha as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by all the gone beyond victorious ones of the 3 times in order to have good conduct. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, May I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rinpoche.
Rinpoche.